So step 1, we're going to hit Shift A, search for mesh, get ourselves an icosphere with 5 subdivisions, right click and shade smooth. Next, go to your camera view, select your camera, switch your focal length to something about 100, I went to 102. Then for the lighting on this one, go ahead and go to rendered preview. I'm going to be doing this in Eevee. I'm going to go turn off transparent real quick. And then we're going to check ambient occlusion, bloom, screen space reflections. And then after that, we're going to turn off scene world, and we're going to use the HDRI built in, and we're going to be using an indoor one for this one. We'll be using this kitchen one here. So if I turn up the world opacity and turn down the blur, we can see that this is an indoor material. And yes, it's an indoor material because it's a mic mesh, but we're going to be using an indoor lighting system so that we can see the light bouncing off of it properly, as opposed to the outdoor forest one. So yeah, for the realistic lighting, use this one, and then we can go ahead and turn back down the world opacity. So then we go back to our camera view and then head over to the shading tab. And in the shading tab, make sure that you go back to the rendered preview. And then there we go. So with our icosphere selected, we can go over here and hit new. We can type in a foam mesh or mic mesh or something, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it mic mesh. Next thing we'll do is we will type in a noise texture into the search bar by hitting Shift A. Noise texture, we got this guy. Then go into edit preferences, search for the Node Wrangler add-on, and make sure you have it checked. Then with the noise texture selected, we'll hit Control T. Then we're going to change this. So we're going to put the object into the vector of the mapping instead of generated. So now if we Control Shift and left click on this noise texture, we can preview what is going on here. So on this noise texture, we're going to switch the scale up to a 280, the detail to a 16, and the roughness to a 0.5, which is going to be the same, and the distortion we'll put at a 1. As you can see, the mesh is nice and small, and if you are doing this on a mic model currently, we'll be messing with the scale later to make sure that everything is scaled properly on your real size model. So stick around in case you're actually modeling your mic right now and it's not looking right. Just follow these steps, and at the end, I'll make sure you know how to make it right with just like an extra 5 seconds of your time. So now we'll hit Shift A, search for our color ramp, plug the factor of the noise texture into the color ramp, and Control Shift left click to preview the color ramp. Next, we'll hit this plus sign to add a third node. Then we're going to take this black right here, and we're going to move it to a 0.42, like so, something about there. Then we're going to take this middle node, and we're going to position it at a 0.71, and then we'll leave this other one way down here. Now for the color on this middle one, we're going to need to switch it up a bit. So we go into here, we're going to switch the value to a 0.012. So it's basically almost a black, and yeah, starting to look more like a mic mesh color. Then on the white color, we're also going to be switching that one. We'll switch the value to a 0.54 on this one, just like this, 0.54, voila. And now we've got our mic mesh color. So simply enough, we're just going to plug the color from that into the color of the principled BSDF. I'll move this a little bit closer so we can see better. And so now if we preview the shader, we can see that we have our color set up. So the next step is going to be the roughness. So for that, we'll hit Shift A, search for our color ramp, take the color from this other color ramp and plug it into the factor. And if we Control Shift left click to preview, it's going to be the exact same thing currently, which is why we're going to be switching the colors on this. This black, we're going to be switching it to a 0.9, and the white we'll be leaving at a pure white. So what this is saying is we want the roughness to be very high, and the reason for that is because we're not going to be messing with subsurface scattering or anything. We don't want the mesh to be basically reflecting anything. So if this was a black, and say this was also like very black, like the original, it would be very shiny, and this is not what we want. So like I said, the first one will be a 0.9, and the other one will be a pure white. So all the way up, no hue, no saturation, and then we get this. So the next step is we're going to hit Shift A and search for a color ramp, and this is going to be for our bump. We'll take the color from the first color ramp and plug it into here. Control Shift left click to preview. We're going to take this second color and we'll switch it to a 0.1. So basically we're saying that we want a little bit of bump to be happening here, but nothing too much going on. Then we'll hit Shift A, search for our bump node, like so. Then we're going to take this color right here and plug it into the height of this bump node. And if we Control Shift left click to preview the bump node, we can see what's going on. and it's starting to look a little bit too bumpy. So we're going to switch this strength to 8.5 just to reduce that a little bit. Then we'll plug the normal from the bump into the normal of the principled shader. Control-Shift left click the shader, and now we have our mic mesh. And this is finished, but like I said earlier, if we switch it to a real size scale, something like a 0.01, and we zoom in, and then we were to Control-A, apply rotation and scale, it looks like this, and this looks like doo-doo. So if you want to switch that really quickly, all you have to do is go over here to scale on your mapping node. Don't mess with the noise texture at all. Go to the mapping node, go down here, switch this to like, you can switch it to a 25, that's a little not enough. Switch to a 50, still not enough. Drop it at 100, and basically you can scroll down here and scale this up as much as you need to, depending on how big your actual mesh is, and then you can just simply bake the material onto the mesh and you'll be set to go. So with that said, that is the end of the material, and it's quite a simple one. So I hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something about scaling meshes, because you probably already knew how to do the noise texture and bump and stuff like that, but hopefully it was educational for you. As always, check out the other ones if you're interested in any other materials, and I'll see you in the next one.